In most cases, let me put it this way, maybe this makes a little bit more sense, okay? In most cases, a standard change do not involve dollars. And if it does, it's very minimal. It doesn't require the involvement of anybody else. But a normal change, it requires a formal process because normally there's going to be significant expenditure of dollars, right? So I would use that as maybe as a point of reference to say, okay, a normal change is just something that I don't need to ask for permission, right? A standard change. Thank you, Patricia. See, I just wanted to see if you were paying attention because you. So as now you guys got me all tore up. Okay, yeah, for real. So a standard change is a routine change. I don't need to inform anybody. I can just go ahead and do it myself. A normal change requires a formal process. An emergency change can happen to address major issues, and an ECAB can go ahead and make decisions real time and justify it later. I repeated that like 3 times for a reason, because that's test material right there. Okay, can you justify a decision that was made by ECAB later? And the answer is yes, you can justify it later. I don't have to justify it right now because that's why it's called an ECAB, because it's an emergency situation and we need a decision made right now. And then what is an RFC? You need to know this. This is an official request for change, right? It becomes a part of the database. It becomes a historic record. And that's part of the normal change process, yes. You know, we do that with the internet. We do that with the internet. You know, what 2 protocols make the internet possible?
TCP, IP.
Well, TCP and IP, right, are the 2 protocols, the 2 main protocols, because those are just 2 protocols out of a family of protocols that make the internet possible, okay? But those are the 2 main protocols that make the internet possible. If we were to change any of those protocols or propose a change to any protocol, anybody can do it. You could do it. If you could go ahead and study protocols and figure out a better way to make the internet work, you could rewrite your own protocol and make it public. There's a website. Just look up RFC for protocols for the internet. And you basically make a proposal to the world to say, I'm making a request for comment. This is what I think, should be the way in which this should work. And so that everybody who has a stake, in the case of the internet, everybody, in the world has a stake, okay? So anybody can go in and make comments. But then there's a period for the comments, right? You have until this date to submit your comments. After this date, we're gonna have a meeting where we're gonna make a decision and we're moving forward. If you didn't bring in your comments by that time, well, too bad. You're gonna have to live with our decision. Does that make sense? And so that's why we need a request for change. Request for change happens here during the normal change, right? It would be too late. We wouldn't have enough time to release a request for comment or request for change if we're conducting an emergency change, because it takes time to get the feedback from people. So most companies will have a model of how they go about addressing change requests. So these models have to be repeatable. They have to have defined steps. Some of these models may deal with a particular type of change. Okay, if the change is about product, then there may be a model on how to go ahead and conduct meetings and take care of the business. If it's products, if it's people, then there may be another model for how we go about and we make those changes. Basically, what we're trying to do by having defined steps on how we evaluate whether a change is necessary or required or needed by having predefined steps on how change management is going to take place. Change model elements contain the steps to be taken. Okay, what should we address first? What should we address second? What elements we should have in the meetings? They should be in chronological order and dependencies of the steps, right? You should outline the responsibilities. You should have time scales and thresholds for completion, right? How long are we going to take to go ahead and implement a change? And there should be escalation procedures, okay? What does it mean to escalate? Send it to the next level of expertise, right? We elevate it to the next level of expertise. At some point, you have to accept that you don't know what you don't know. Okay? I don't know what I don't know. And so, if I don't know what I'm supposed to know, I still don't know, I'm going to escalate it to somebody who knows. Okay? And that's okay. It's okay to say that you don't know something. Sometimes we feel under the pressure that I have to know everything. Oh man, they asked me to do this and I have to figure out. Hey, the clock is ticking, and at some point you have to say, I can't do this. I have to send this up to the next level, get some advice, bring in some experts, get a second opinion, a third opinion, okay? Don't try to be a lone ranger in IT. You're going to suffer. All right, and here we are again, right? So CAB is Change Advisory Board. ECAB is a subset of CAB. It is basically a group of people that are making decisions for change management. Okay? Normally, you're going to have people like, for example, people that could be part of the change management process are people that are like change managers. Believe it or not, we have change managers because, you know, if it's we're talking about enterprise service managers. Service management, right? So there's going to be changes going on all the time, in one area or another. So we need somebody who's going to manage those changes. The service level manager could be part of the CAB, Change Advisory Board. The finance manager should be part of the Change Advisory Board. The problem manager, yeah, there is a problem manager, should be part of the Change Advisory Board. The operations manager, senior technical managers, application managers, configuration managers, and maybe even suppliers could be part of the Change Advisory Board. You guys see that? So it's basically a whole bunch of people who are responsible and accountable for making decisions on behalf of the company. Okay? So a change management model could look something like this, right? Let's say that you want to propose a change. Paul over here had some ideas on how we can make this program better. Well, we're going to have to come up with a change management proposal, right? And so that takes work. It takes a little bit of homework. But it could look something like this, right? The first thing that you have to do is create an RFC. You want to propose a change? Go write an RFC. Don't just come over here and tell me you want to propose a change and that you have this great idea and, you know, and it's going to revolutionize the world and, you know, gonna put your name in the book of histories. Hey, go for it. Write an RFC. Okay, let's check it out. If you want, before we release the RFC, run it by me. I'll look at it, give you some pointers, but we cannot do anything else without an RFC. We record the RFC. Where? Where do we record this information? In the CMS. What's the CMS? Configuration Management System. Then we record the RFC in the Configuration Management System. Then that person becomes the initiator. The initiator is the person who writes the RFC and records the RFC into the CMS. Heaven, you with me? I know you're with me. I know you're with me. I can see how you're enjoying this. And
No, I am.
no, I mean that. I'm not being sarcastic. Yeah. So, the initiator is the person who records the RFC into the CMS. Okay. Once the RFC has been recorded into the CMS, it will be published and available for everybody to review it. Right. So the review of the RFC will take place, and then we're gonna assess and evaluate the change. Okay. All of this will be recorded in the CMS. If a change is approved, then a work order is generated. You guys see the process? That's the process. I cannot produce a work order unless the RFC has been reviewed and we got the feedback already. Okay. If an authorization is made, then that will happen right here, right? We're ready to make a decision. There's a work order. We're moving to, we're getting ready to authorize. Okay, if the authorization is denied, then this may have to go back to RFC, to the initiator. You see that? But if it is authorized, then we go ahead and we plan those updates that gets recorded in the CMS. Right? Then we schedule the change. We're gonna coordinate the change implementation that gets recorded into the CMS. So every one of the steps is recorded into the change management, into the configuration management system. And then once that has been implemented, once the change has been implemented, we review the change, make sure that the change is finished and done and it's doing what it was intended to do. And then we'll review and close the change record. All right? At some point, there's going to be an evaluation report that says, okay, the change has taken place, everything is good, we didn't encounter any problems, no need to mitigate, so let's go ahead and close that change ticket. Sometimes, Warren is not here. Maybe he can tell you a little bit more about what he did. But he did an internship at Robert Half for 3 months where his job was solely change management. So his job was to call somebody who called the people who are supposed to be reviewing the RFC and they haven't done it yet. And the deadline is coming. Okay, and then enter that information into the database. His job was to work with go into meetings and work with the individuals to see if a change has been authorized or not authorized, and then send it back to the initiator if necessary, or move it forward. And then make phone calls, basically just push the process of change management forward. Because what happens is that people procrastinate. They initiate a change, they read an RFC, they get busy with other stuff, and they completely forget about it. Why? Because they have wearing too many hats. That's just the nature of the beast. Too many people wearing too many hats. We forget. We forget. That's why we need tools like reminders, alarms, and things like that to remind us of things. That's why you have to make use of the technology. Okay. Use your phone. Use Google. Use whatever you need to do. Start work with a calendar. Okay. I know that's beyond the scope of this class, but you have to work with it. If you're gonna be in IT, even if you're not in IT these days, it's really hard to operate without making use of the tools that are available, such as calendar reminders and task lists and things like that. In one of my jobs, I used to be, man, I had so many things going on. It was just crazy. Like, oh man, I have to talk to this person, then I have to finish this document by this day. Oh man, I got to schedule this meeting, and I have this other meeting coming out, so I have to prepare this PowerPoint, okay? And I have this other course that I need to teach, so I have to prepare my lessons. It's just so many things, to the point where I had to just, at least once a week or every 2 weeks, I needed to just take a whole morning, sit down and write bullet points of just do a breakdown of everything that I had going on. And I'm telling you, I would come out with 6 pages, like 50 things that I needed to do, okay? And then I would reorganize them to figure out what I needed to do first, prioritize, and then, go do them, basically. Go do them and They just go one by one. Okay, that's done. Boom, that's boom, that's done. Until I learn how to. That's why I quit that job, man. 'Cause seriously, once you start doing that, they expect you to do it forever. Yeah. Bottom line is that everything gets recorded into the CMS and that there's a process for managing change. You cannot just go and make a change and nobody knows about the change you made. Change management allows for changes to take place smoothly, and it minimizes negative impacts to the rest of the business. Okay, all this gets recorded and adjustments need to be made to the SACM. Okay. Change management. Within change management, we have the 7 R's of change management. Woo. As if you didn't have enough. Okay. Okay. If a change is being proposed, I'm going to ask questions. First, who raised the change? These are the 7 R's. Yes, sir. The 7 R's of change management. Who raised the change? What is the reason for the change? There has to be answers for that. If you cannot answer all of that, then the change might not take place. What is the reason for the change? So there are R's, right? Raise, reason, return, risk, resources, responsible, and relationship. What is the return required for the change? What is the return required for the change? What are we getting out of it? Yeah, what are we getting out of it? That's basically what that means. What are the risks involved in the change? What are the risks involved in the change? What resources are required to deliver and support the change? Who is responsible for the building, testing, and implementation of the change? What is the relationship between the change and other changes? Are you feeling overwhelmed yet?
You say return required. Can you flesh it out a little bit?
What is the returning in our investment, basically? That would probably be another. As why would I invest in that? What am I going to get out of it? What is our company getting out of it? Okay? What is the return for the change? What is it that we're going to require that we're getting out of the change for it to be feasible? You have to be able to answer these questions, otherwise. Let me give you a personal example, okay? This happened many years ago, not too many years ago, but within the last 10 years. I used to have a partner, and we used to have a van. The van was a little on the old side, but she just wanted a new van, period. She was convinced that the van that we had was not, it was ugly. That was the argument, that it didn't look good, okay? It would still take you from point A to point B, but it was ugly, okay? It wasn't the prettiest car in town, I tell you. And so one day I came home and she was like, listen, she cooked dinner the whole 9 yards, candlelight dinner, all romantic. And that's because she wanted to pitch her, she wanted me to buy the van. So it turns out that she's like, oh, the van we had is old. And I'm like, I agree. And we need a new van, and I said, I agree. Okay, so good. The kids and I, we went to the dealer and we saw this van and it's $5,000 and, and I think we should buy it. And I said, well, let me go look at the budget. Let me see. Ooh, no, we can't buy that van right now. Of course, she got mad, locked the door, and I slept in the sofa that night. But hey, you know what? Then you're not asking, right? If you get mad, you are demanding, right? Yeah. Well, I don't know about that.
Yeah, it's just a 5 years.
All I'm saying is that's what happens sometimes in the workplace, right? People want to change, but they're not willing to answer all these questions. So you want to change, but you're not justifying the change. And who's going to be responsible for doing the configuration? And who's going to be responsible for doing the deployment? And who has the skills necessary to make this happen? So what are the resources required? Do we need additional training? Well, that's going to cost money, and that's not in our budget. You know, maybe that change has to wait until our next cycle, financial cycle. Some companies have financial cycles in June, some companies have financial cycles in January. And so, or some companies have financial cycles that are every 4 years. You know, and so we have to wait 3 years, 3.5 years before we can request a change, because it's not important enough that we can justify the change right now. And so that's where frustration can kick in, right? We're trying to avoid all of that when we're strategizing, but if we're in this situation now, it's like we can't do much unless you are able to answer all of these questions. And there's a process for the change. It's not like I want to change. You're gonna be like, I want to change now, and I want to change. It's like, you can kick the floor all you want, man. We ain't gonna do no change. That's just how it's gonna happen. Who is responsible to build it? What is the relationship? So if we're gonna implement this, how is that gonna affect other people? How is that gonna affect other partners? How is that gonna affect other products? Okay, how is that gonna affect other processes that we have in place? I don't know. We need to know. Oh, this is test material. Oh, but this is another process, okay? So much for change management. Questions from change management? So we have RFCs, CAPs, ECAPs, the 7 R's of change management. Who raised the change? What is the reason? What is the risk? What is the return? What are the resources? Who's responsible? And how does that affect other items within the organization? The relationship between that change and other changes or other processes already in place. All right, let's move on to release, deployment, and management. Now we're ready to deploy, okay? What is it that we're trying to do here? We're trying to build, test, and deliver the capability necessary to provide this service to the users or to our clients based on what was written in our service design process. Okay, so we're transitioning into operation what was written during the design process. Okay. So here's the process for release, deployment, management. Okay, so if the change has already been agreed upon and authorizations have been made, then now we're ready to move to the release and deployment planning. Okay? Release and deployment planning is the first step in release and deployment management. First, we need to plan it. How are we going to release this product? It is during this step right here where we're going to come up with a deployment date. A deployment date. So let's say we have 3 months from now. That's June, July, August, September. Okay? So we have August, September, maybe October 15 or so. If that's our deployment date, we're going to decide that right here. We're going to release that date to the public or to the customers. Okay? This is our target date. Okay? We're still planning. We're not really, but at least we're in the process already, right, of releasing. Then we release, build, and test. So basically, we create a sample of it or a pilot or a beta, and we release it so that people can test it. Okay. All of this information gets recorded, or authorization from to access software. If necessary, that's going to happen here, because we need to check in with the DML here. What is the DML? Limited Media Library, right? So if we need software, we need resources, we get it from there. And then we authorize the deployment, right? So whether it's being deployed or not. It may be that we're transferring or that we're retiring, depending on what we're trying to do here. Okay, if the change was that we're going to deploy, we're going to deploy. Otherwise, we're going to transfer that service to another mode or we're going to retire that service. That's going to happen here. Then once that has been implemented, the deployment has been done, we do a review and then we close it. At that point, we're in operations. Okay. At that point, we're touching on operations. Once we get a feedback from operations that is up and running, maybe 3 or 6 weeks into the process, then we go ahead and close the change. Now, this is what we call, let me see if I wrote this down.
Is there a typical time frame that all this takes place?
It depends on the nature of the service and the size. You know, it all depends. It could be 3 weeks, 6 weeks, 6 months.
That's a lot of authorization.
It is.
So there's step by step, we're trying to get done something, something else.
That's right. But the reason why we do that is so that we have a process, a formal process so that we're covering all of our angles, right? CYA. And we're trying to cover our assets, personal assets, but the interest of the company is basically what we're doing, right? So that if there's a complaint later or something is not working, we can go back and say, well, we did that step and that step and that step, so what happened?
By the time we get this in production, this will be perfect. 'Cause
Exactly.
so many people looking at it. Yeah.
Exactly. Yes.
So, again, it's a lot of data, right? And being a visual learner, it helps me to be able to have kind of a bird's eye view of everything. But I don't see it like a Gantt chart being a tool in planning. Do you convert at some point?
Remind me what a Gantt chart is. It's been a while since I touched that.
It's like a different layers showing tasks and milestones and dates, like in a axis, XY axis.
That sounds to me like a RACI chart. Similar to a RACI chart?
Having not seen a RACI chart, I'm not sure, but I know. Huh?
You've seen it if you weren't here yesterday, were you?
No, I wasn't.
Yeah, that's why you haven't seen it.
It sounds like project management.
It is. Gantt is a project management process, yeah.
But I mean, it's but it helps you get a bird's eye view of the entire project, as far as all the different pieces and then milestones. But I didn't see the RACI, no.
Okay. Yeah, no, but this is it. As far as ITIL is concerned, right? From release deployment management. We need to get authorizations. We need to make sure that we talk to the stakeholders. We need to make sure that we plan, that we schedule, control the release to deliver functionality while protecting existing services. Okay? We need to define and agree with stakeholders on release dates. We need to make sure that we use the definitive media library. A release can be one change or many changes. That could be a test question, if I remember correctly. If I have a bunch of changes, and I want to implement all those changes at the same time, we can refer that as a release. But if it's just one change, that's also a release. So one or more changes that are released at the same time are referred to as a release. So that when we're done with planning and documenting all the release deployment processes, we come up with what we call a release packet. So we're making a lot of use of the definitive media library here because we're implementing we're actually doing the configuration. We have to go into the definitive media library, pull copies of software, install them, deploy them, go back to the definitive media library, put them away, get the key codes, right? Go back and install that information, put it back into definitive media library, okay? Release policies. Release policy defines the release units or packages for service. It specifies identifications, numbering, and naming conventions, right? That's very important because naming conventions is a big deal. That a naming convention can say a lot about a specific file or a specific CMDB, for example, right? Just like what I wrote on the board earlier. If I have a CMDB underscore CI underscore hardware, that's my name. That's my naming convention, right? Anything that has to do with hardware will need to be under hardware. So if it's a hard drive, it's going to be CMDB underscore CI underscore hardware underscore hard drives. If it's a software, applications, for example, because there's different types of softwares, right? So I can have as part of my naming convention here for my CMDBs, CMDB underscore CI underscore software underscore applications underscore Microsoft Office, for example. Okay, if it's an operating system, then I can go, you know, CMDB underscore CI underscore software underscore operating systems underscore Windows, right? And if it's Mac, would be underscore Mac. So see how I'm deciding how I'm going to name the areas of the database that are relevant to this service, and that is we're making that decision together, right? But CMDB underscore CI underscore whatever is kind of the standard naming convention at this point. That's how you're going to start your naming conventions. Where you go from there is kind of up to you, and every company will do it differently. But don't be surprised if you ever have to go to a meeting and they're talking about CMDBs. Because you should know what a CMDB is, which is a repository of data that pertains to configuration items that's stored in the CMS, the configuration management system. Say it 10 times now, Patricia.
Yeah.
The numbering system is also important, right? So, and a lot of, we used to do that when we used to store our information in a local server. You guys remember when we used to store information in our local server? And we had to meet up with our team and say, okay, you guys have files all over the place. And it's really hard to tell what belongs where. Okay, so we're going to have a naming convention for the files, and we just kind of reorganize all the files so that it's easier to find. Same principle here. We're trying to organize the information inside the database so that it's easy to find and easier to manage. Okay. Roles and responsibilities are going to be defined here also. Okay. Who's responsible for what? Here's where I'm hiring people. Now I'm hiring people because I need to operationalize, right? So I already have my roles and responsibilities in place. But in here, I'm actually implementing them because the roles and responsibilities were defined where? Governance defines that. Right here, I am just pulling up the document that was defined in governance, and I am hiring the people necessary to fulfill this need. You guys with me? And then automation mechanics. How can we, which parts of this service are automated? Well, maybe we can, create triggers that can start processes automatically, so that all we have to do is go in when a human intervention is required. And then configuration baselining. We talked about that earlier, right? That's the baseline configuration of all the configuration items within our organization. Okay, and then we have knowledge management, right? What is the purpose of knowledge management? Is to gather. Our purpose for knowledge management is to gather, analyze, store and share knowledge and information within an organization to the individuals who the information is intended to. The information might not be intended for everybody. So in your configuration management system, you will have the option to publish knowledge to everybody, or to individuals, or to groups of individuals. If you have something that you want to publish, let's say you go into an organization and you write this document that pertains to your work, that's important information, you might not have the ability to publish that information without the authorization of a knowledge manager. Okay, why? Because companies are trying to protect their image. So public relations is something that is probably managed by another individual, okay? My PR manager, public relations manager, may not want certain information to be released to the public, okay? Because then questions may arise. And that person will have to mitigate the information that was released. And so therefore, your knowledge manager, together with other individuals such as PR managers, marketing departments and things like that, may need to okay a release of information to the public. All right? So something to keep in mind. We're trying to improve the decision-making process. By managing the knowledge, it allows us to be data-driven. But nowadays, even to buy a car, you need information. Right? You just go buy a car. Hopefully, you're doing your homework. You're trying to figure out which cars are more efficient, more cost-effective, not that expensive to maintain, right? Easier to park. I don't know, longer warranty, safety, very important, right? So those are the kinds of things you're taking into consideration. But you want to be data-driven. You want to be a data-driven individual within an organization. I promise you, if you're a data-driven individual, it's going to be difficult for anybody to debunk your reasons as to why you go about doing your business. Okay? It's just like this process that we're going through right now. As painful as it is for you, I'm enjoying to see you in pain. No, I'm just kidding. But as painful as it is for you, it's data-driven, right? We have information that says that a large percentage, a considerable amount, I don't have the exact numbers, but I'm just going to throw some numbers up in the air. 70% of employers are more likely to employ you if you have knowledge of ITIL. Okay? 75% of employers are more likely to employ you if you have industry certifications. Okay, so we made this, okay, let's teach this class. Boom, we're going to teach this class. Oh, well, we found out that, people who score this much and that much in the quizzes and in the test prep are more likely to pass the final exam, right? And so usually the process for you to go past the final exam is that you cannot just decide that you go on a test. You have to get a green light from your instructor. I have to give an okay that you can go test because I'm going to use the data that you're giving me on your test prep and your pattern of business activities, right, to say, yes, this person is ready. That way, if you go and you fail, we made the decision together. You see that? I had a guy, this guy, man, young black dude, man. He was very young and very sweet, but it was really hard to read him. Really hard to read him. And so, we went through the whole program, not here, this happened years ago. And he went through a 6-month program. And by the time came to go test, I looked at his numbers and he was just like, he was pretty much in the red, as far as numbers is concerned. My averages told me that he wasn't ready. Okay? So I showed him the numbers and I said, listen, Aaron, you're not ready, man, to take this test. You're just not ready. He's like, yes, I'm ready. I'm like, you're not ready. I cannot give you a grade. I cannot put my name on it. Okay, but he was just almost in tears, and I said, okay, I tell you what, Aaron, you go and you pay for your voucher yourself, go buy one, go take the test. If you pass it, I'll give you your money back. Okay? If you fail it, then I told you so, now you're going to have to continue to do it my way. Well, he went and bought the voucher himself, and he paid for it, and he passed it by like 2 points. So he came back like, yeah, I passed that, but I couldn't put my name on such a close call, right? It was too much risk. He passed by 2 points. If he would have missed one question, that would have been it. Yeah, he was way too good. All right, so let me finish this. I only got like 2 slides going on. So check it out. First, we got data. Once we determine the who, the what, the when, and the where, it becomes information. Once we evaluate that information, it becomes knowledge. Okay, this allows us to make decisions on the how, and then once we've made some decisions, I can speak with wisdom as to the why I made that decision. Okay, the knowledge allows me to figure out how I need to go about doing my business, but the wisdom allows me to explain why I did it. Okay, why I did it the way I said I was going to do it. So this is along the lines of what I explained the other day, right? The data at first is just the raw zeros and ones, right? But when I gathered the data, to represent it maybe in a tabular form, maybe graphs and things like that, then it becomes information. But once I interpret the information, right, I actually look at the graphs and I make sense of the information, then that gives me an idea of how I should go about doing it, okay? Then once I make that decision and I move forward and I've proven that results are coming in, then I can say, okay, I'm operating within wisdom. And I can explain why I made those decisions, okay? Who is wiser? The person who lives the experience or the person who learns from the experience? The person who learns from the experience is wiser, right? Hey, if you're coming back from a downhill, right, from a mountain, and you say, hey, don't go that way, man, because there's wolves up there. And I say, yeah, whatever, I'm just gonna keep going. And then the wolves attack me and eat me. I was done, right?
You didn't live.
I didn't learn from the wisdom. I'm not trying to have bad experience to learn. I'm trying to learn without having to experience the bad part of it, or negative part of it. So it's wiser he who learns from the experience of others.
We'll get all the information ahead. Really run fast,
That's right. Okay, 2 more slides and I'm done. Now for real. Check it out. So here, I try to put this together because I know the book is kind of all over the place. And obviously I didn't do a much better job today explaining to you service transition because it's a little bit convoluted. But I'm trying to compile the information here for you. Okay? So what do we have when it comes to service knowledge management system? That is the entire system basically. Okay? Within the service knowledge management system, we have the CIS registers. The CIS registers is basically a compilation of all the changes that have ever been made or proposed to the processes for the organization. List of budgets. All the budgets are stored in here. All the policies and processes are also stored in the service knowledge management system. Project plans are all stored here. Diagnostic scripts. Why do I need diagnostic scripts? Because if somebody calls in, I want them to have step 1, step 2, step 3. That's why when you call AT&T, they go, oh, okay, have you checked is your computer on? Are you connected to the internet? Is the light green? Things like that. Customer user information is stored here. We also have in the CMS, we have all the CMDBs. Where are the CMDBs? In the CMS. Where are the CMS? In the SKMS. You see that? Yeah. And then, of course, the other aspect of this is the definitive media library. And then we have other items such as the information security management system, that's the ISMS. And we have the capacity management information system, that's CMIS. And then we have availability management information system, and portfolio items are here. Okay, this one is not as fancy as my previous ones, but pretty much brings it to, compile basically what we're talking about transition. If we're talking about transition, what are we talking about? Transition, planning, and support, right? We're planning and coordinating. In change management, we're doing RFCs, standard change, normal change, and emergency change. We have CABs and ECABs and change models. Okay, we have the 7 R's of change management. We have asset management, CIS management, CMDBs inside, service asset and configuration management. We have the DMLs are in here, CMSs are in here, Release and deployment, we have release units, release packages, and release policies. And in the service knowledge management, we have the SKMS, and then DIKW is what? The DIKW is this, what I just showed you here, DIKW. First data, then information, then knowledge, and then wisdom. The two main things that I would definitely walk out of this room thinking about today is the fact that in service transition, we manage the information, knowledge management, and configuration management, right? So, knowledge management here, and asset management are kind of the two big ones that where you're definitely gonna get questions about. Okay, and then you, of course, you need to know this right here, the aspects of change management. I'm sure you guys will have a great weekend.
I have a question.
Enjoy the rest of your reading. I'm gonna deploy the other quizzes, okay, and we're gonna wrap this up on Monday, and that's it. From then on, we're gonna get into the test prepping mode and going through flashcards, and we're gonna walk around the room and we're gonna drill you on the material, okay? Corey has something for you. He needs to address.
Both of us. Go ahead. Gift cards for gas.
Monday we'll go through
Forgive me.
operations and see.
Angela, here's one for you.
Then we'll start testing. Test prep.
Steven.
Preparation for testing. Okay.
Everybody, before you guys go to also, you guys can just let me know if you guys want to. There's
That's fine.
2 events we're gonna have.
Okay.
I'm just gonna pass them around. They have the information on it. One's Google, one's Facebook. The Google one's gonna be, the Facebook one's gonna be in 2 weeks in Oakland downtown.
Oh yeah, there's a mistake.
It's gonna be in the evening on a Thursday. I got the dates here. Just sign up and see if you're interested in going. I would recommend everybody going to both of these events. They're both different. Obviously, the Facebook one is Developer Circle, is the first one in North America that they have. They opened up an office in Oakland. Out of all the places in the United States, they chose Oakland. Seasoned developers, but anybody that's breaking into coding also, it's a really good way to expose yourself to it. So there's going to be different levels of mentors there. That's really what Facebook is trying to do right now. They're trying to push mentorship. And again, this is a private event. So you're not going to be there with people from outside. It's going to be from certain organizations that are participating and working and collaborating with Facebook in the Oakland area. We're just one of them. So it's going to be at the Kapoor Center, really nice spot downtown on Broadway. It's going to be in their theater. So there's going to be a good amount of people in 2 weeks, July 6th. So we'll start with that one. I'm going to start here. Name, just put your name down if you'd like to go, because I'm going to want to give them a head count also. And of course, if you change your mind later during the week, let me know. Or if you want to add on later too.
You will send us information about this.
Right, so I'm going to give you more detailed information through the email and a calendar. I have a calendar right now, but it's inside. I don't want